In this lecture, we are going to answer a very common question I get, which is, how do I use the trained model to make predictions? Before we start this lecture, I want to say that this should be completely possible using only what you've learned so far. You should be able to apply what you've learned to do this, since no new code is necessary. You have all the tools you need. So if you would like to stop this video and try on your own, I would strongly recommend doing so. To start, first recognize that we are in a separate VIP notebook, which you can find in the VIP Notebooks document. Once you've reached the notebook, we are going to scroll all the way down to where we plot the loss per iteration, since this is where our new work begins. The first step here is to think about which movies do I actually want to make predictions for. To make this simple, let's suppose we want to make predictions for the user with user ID 1. Well, we of course only want to recommend movies that user 1 has not watched. And in order to do that, we first have to figure out what movies user 1 has watched. In order to calculate this, we first need to select all the rows in the data frame where new user ID is 1. Next, we grab the new movie ID column and then call .values to get this as a NumPy array. In the next block, I've printed out all the movies that user 1 has rated so you can have a look. In the next block, we need to find the movies that user 1 has not rated, which I'll call potential movie IDs. In order to find these, we need to make use of the isIn function in pandas. By using the tilde in front of the isIn function call, we are basically saying, find all the rows where the new movie ID is not in the array watched movie IDs. After selecting these rows, we do .newMovieID to get the movie IDs column, and then we call the unique function, since obviously there will be multiple users who have watched the same movies. Next, we check how many movies there are that user 1 has not rated, and it's about 26,000. Of course, we expect this number to be close to the total number of movies for all users. Unless, of course, there's someone out there who does nothing but watch and rate movies all day, this is going to be the case. By the way, this array of potential movie IDs forms one of the inputs into our model. As you know, the other input is just the user ID, which should be 1 for every movie. So in order to get an array like that, we want to use the ones-like function to create an array of ones with the same shape as the movie IDs. As an exercise, you might want to think about how you would do this if you wanted to make predictions for a different user ID, say user ID 10. Obviously, there's no such function as tens-like. The next step is to convert our data into Torch tensors and move them to the GPU, which I'm sure you know how to do by now. The next step is to pass these inputs into our model and assign this to a variable called predictions. In the next block, we convert our predictions into a NumPy array, and we also flatten them since we want a 1D array and not a 2D array. The next step is to sort our predictions in descending order. Since we actually want the sort index, we can use the argsort function. We also have to make sure that we negate the predictions, since the argsort function sorts ascending. Next, I print the predictions and the sort index, just for your information and because it's a nice sanity check. Finally, let's suppose I want the top 10 predictions for this user. All I need to do is take the first 10 elements of the sort index, which tells me where those movie IDs are located in my input array. I can also index the predictions array to get the corresponding scores. Next, I use a for loop to loop through the top 10 movies and their scores, and I print out the result inside the loop. As you can see, we do in fact get a list of movies with scores sorted in descending order.